50 Terrifying Tales from the Shadows. I'm not sure I'll ever sleep again after hearing these. I never should have opened that door. The hallway was dark, the kind of darkness that chills you straight to the bone. I could feel the air grow heavy, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribcage. I stood there, trembling, drenched in dread. It was a normal day. Birds chirping, the sun shining. I was just making my morning coffee, the scent of brewing beans wrapping around me like a warm hug. But a sliver of curiosity stung me. What lay behind that door? The whispers came first. I couldn't make them out, but they tickled my ear, slithering through the stillness of my home. The shadows in the corners twisted and turned, reaching toward me, trying to pull me in. The temperature dropped, and I could see my breath forming delicate ghosts in the air. Each crack of the house settling made my skin prickle. Then came the noisy and eerie shuffle, like something dragging itself across the floorboards. My fingers trembled as I reached for the knob, a swirling mix of fear and thrill gnawing at my insides. The door squealed open, revealing the pitch-black void that loomed beyond. It was as if I stepped into a different world. The cold penetrated my skin, a biting chill that made me shiver. The smell, dust mingled with old decay, was thick, almost suffocating. I swallowed hard, tasted metal on my tongue. Something skittered in the darkness, scraping against the wall. Every instinct screamed for me to retreat, but I was frozen in place, a moth drawn to a flame. Then I saw it. A shift in the shadows. A figure? Stood still, too still. My breath hitched in my throat. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. Panic tightened its grip, and my thoughts raced. What was it? Who? A whisper slithered through the air again, chilling me deeper. I felt it wrap around my ankles, pulling me closer to the abyss. I clutched the doorframe. A pulse of terror surged through me. Before I could make sense of what I saw, it moved. And in an instant the room erupted with noisy, a horrible screech, like the sound of nails on a chalkboard, shredding my sanity. The door slammed shut behind me, sealing my fate. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The screech echoed off the walls, a sound so piercing that it shattered my thoughts, rendering everything else silent. My heart pounded against my ribs like a trapped animal, and I spun around, desperately grasping for the door that had closed, my last link to the outside world. Of course it mocked my pleas. The cold wood wouldn't budge. It felt alive, as if it had clamped down on my fears, laughing in the face of my terror. In the darkness, the presence drew closer, its form coalescing from the shadows like a sinister cloud. I could see it now, a grotesque amalgamation of shapes, moving in and out of discernible reality, its features both human and monstrous. Eyeless sockets where a face should be stared back at me, hollow and hungry. Panic surged anew, twisting my stomach into a tight knot. Do you hear it? A voice resonated from the depths, sounding as if it came from all directions at once. It was familiar and foreign, echoing the kind of whispers that had sparked my curiosity in the first place. It knows you, it has always known you. I stumbled backward, feebly bumping against the door, but this time I could feel it pulse against my back as if it were alive too, throbbing in rhythm with my fear. The shadows danced and rippled around the creature, and my mind screamed to understand what this was, what it wanted from me. Out of the murky darkness, a hand slowly extended towards me, the fingers elongated and twisted, each joint cracking with a cruel animation. I was transfixed, paralyzed between dread and the unnatural allure of its proximity, but a primal instinct drove me to scream. My voice, a thin thread of sound, pierced through the tension. "Leave me alone!" The screeching echoed back, distorting my cry into something monstrous, like a broken record. The creature's fingers hovered just inches from my face, now glistening with an otherworldly sheen, sticky wet. I recoiled at the glimpse of what looked like sinewy tendrils, coiling and uncoiling. "It has been waiting," the voice whispered again, silken yet filled with malice. For your curiosity to unravel. The walls began to close in, tightening like a noose woven from shadows. My breaths came in rapid gasps, each exhale becoming a desperate plea for escape. Panic mounted, and I turned to the door again, slamming my shoulder against it, willing it to yield, to allow me to go back to the sunlit kitchen and the reassuring aroma of coffee. But it was futile. The door trembled. A low rumbling laughter reverberated from beyond the wood. Just then, as if in a cruel jest, the door creaked open a mere crack, framed by the murkiness beyond. A sliver of light spilled through, illuminating the creature's hand, revealing a side I hadn't dared to imaginito see its palm flayed open, revealing pulsating veins of darkness beneath shimmering skin. Step closer, the voice coaxed, sweet as poison, drawing me within reach of the threshold. I felt an irresistible pull, my very essence inching toward the invitation. My fears morphed, mingling with a grotesque curiosity. But the darkness breathed, and from it arose a chorus of murmurs, rising in a cacophony of voices that clawed at my sanity. Let us in, they urged, or prepare to stay forever, with desperation coursing through me. I broke free from the mesmerizing grasp of its summons and bolted instead towards the remaining light. I wasn't ready for what lay ahead despite the beckoning glow. And that is when an even greater horror unfolded. The hallway behind me contorted, its walls quaking. The comforting whir of my coffee machine now replaced with the sound of a gurgling clash, as if the very structure of my home was unraveling. In that fleeting moment of clarity, I recognized the futility of fighting against it all, but as I turned back to confront the creature one final time, I was met with a horrific realization. The once lifeless shadows had multiplied, becoming an army of figures straining toward me with fervor, ready to drag me into a darkness I could never escape. Their eyes glinted with a malevolent hunger that I backed away slowly, heart racing, knowing wherever I turned was now a portal of horror. Then came the worst possible sound, an anguished scream wreathed in despair, my own voice echoing, a foreboding promise of what awaited me. And in that heart-stopping second, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. Welcome home. The grip was cold, so bone-chilling that it seeped deep into my bones and twisted around my soul like a vice. Every desperate thought that had kept me reeling vanished, replaced by the sheer terror of that touch. I blinked, my heart racing, the moment stretching into infinity. I turned slowly, eyes widening as I caught sight of the figure that had claimed me. Its features were now clearer, more defined than the shapeless terror that had haunted my nightmares. It was a silhouette of a woman, her long hair flowing like black smoke, curling around her neck and veiling her face. But as the darkness retreated, it revealed a grin so wide it seemed to unhinge her jaw, festooned with rows of razor-sharp teeth that glistened like blades under the sliver of light. The eyes, however, were the worst, a burning brightness that pierced through the veneer of shadows, all too human on one side yet a deep abyss on the other, swirling with the sorrow of countless lost souls. Will you join us? She rasped, her voice like the rustling of dead leaves, each word a taunt that reverberated through the air around me. This is your time, your place. You've always belonged here. Behind her, the army of shadows groaned, a threnody of longing and anguish, their forms shifting and melding, creating grotesque versions of the faces I once knew, friends, family, all distorted into nightmares standing upon the precipice of reason. I could see fleeting glimpses of my mother, her face twisted in an expression of pain as her mouth echoed the same anguished wail that had just escaped my lips. Oh, I rasped, the protest torn from my throat as the shadows closed in, darkening the previously welcoming light. You're not real. This isn't happening. Oh, but it is. The woman leaned closer, and in her eyes I saw worlds crumbling, universes filled with despair. You invited me in with your curiosity, didn't you? You wanted to know the truth, and now the truth wants you. You wished for something more, something darker. I was rooted to the spot, my knees threatening to buckle beneath me. The appendage on my shoulder tightened, the vice of terror threatening to snap my very essence. I fought against the madness spiraling in my mind, the echoes of murmurs growing louder and more insistent. Fear is an exhilarating companion, she continued, her tone rolling smooth like honey laced with poison. It feeds on your hope, growing fatter as despair takes root in your heart. You've tasted the darkness and now it craves you back. Another scream clawed its way up my throat, but I quashed it down, forcing my legs to move. I broke free from her paralyzing grip, twisting away, my movements frantic. I had to find the door, the exit. But no matter how I ran, the corridor seemed to stretch into an endless maw, the shadows shifting to conceal the way I came. swallowing the flickering light beneath the weight of darkness. "What do you seek?" The woman laughed, a sound so high and manic it cracked through the layer of sanity I had clung to. "You can never leave. This is your sanctuary now, forever." My pulse thundered in my ears as I skidded to a halt, realizing that I was out in the open yet submerged in a ballroom engulfed in shadows and dismal elegance, where silken drapes fringed with mildew hung from phantom chandeliers, flickering in and out of existence. It was opulent yet decrepit, memories of forgotten joy mingling with the stench of decay. The shadows danced close, whispering promises of oblivion, a dark waltz beckoning me into the thrumming abyss. I staggered across the room, searching for the remnants of my reality. Each step felt like a betrayal against my racing heart. A sudden cold breath brushed my cheek, causing the hair on my neck to stand erect. "Join us," they chanted, their voices mingling in devilish harmony. My gaze locked onto the floor, where endless pairs of boots danced over the rotting wood, twirling in a ghostly ballet of madness. Then, amidst the swirling shadows, I caught sight of a mirror fractured and grimy, yet the surface pulsated with a faint, inviting glow. Drawn to it against my better judgment, I approached, each step riddled with trepidation. The reflections didn't show me, they revealed a different scene altogether, a vision of me, tethered forever in that dark ballroom, a grim spectator to this wicked masquerade. The woman laughed, a spine-chilling, unseemly melody that echoed around me. "Look closely," she coaxed. "That could be you. Is that not what you desire?" And just as I turned to run, the mirror shifted, revealing another choice I could never comprehend. It was then I felt a sharp pull of reality unfurling, twisting as they surged forth. Something shifted in the corner of my eye, a flicker of movement, impossibly real and achingly familiar. I glanced back to the mirror and gasped, choking on the realization staring back at me, my heart thrumming like a sinister drum. "I will not become a part of you," I shouted. Yet the whisper of the curling shadows came rushing back, coiling around my throat like a serpent, suffocating my defiance. The last echoes of my scream hung suspended in the air as the floor began to tremble beneath me, and shadows surged past, grabbing onto my limbs, dragging me toward the mirror. I struggled wildly, but it was too late. The mirror shattered. And in that instant I was consumed entirely by the black, surrounded by laughter, the echoing promises of darkness beckoning me home. Then, silence fell like a shroud over the eternal night, leaving me suspended in terror, wondering what fate awaited as dread encircled my consciousness. The silence dissolved like sugar in water, teasingly sweet yet ominously bittersweet, and from that nothingness emerged the rustle of fabric. I blinked, my eyes adjusting to an expanse of darkness, heavy and suffocating, as though I had sunk into the depths of a nightmare made flesh. My heart raced, shards of glass still slicing through my psyche, the horror of the shattered mirror lingering like a ghost. Gradually, shapes formed in the void, distant yet close, faces contorting with familiar fear. They ebbed and flowed like smoke around me, half-formed, eyes pleading, each ethereal face a reflection of a past tethered to my existence, swirling in a macabre dance rooted in despair. I stumbled backward, the ground shifting and folding underfoot, reminding me that I no longer stood on solid ground but on the precipice of some unearthly realm. Then, the sound of a distant clock began to toll, the chilling chimes resonating through the air in a mocking rhythm. Tick, tock. Each beat sent tremors through my bones, amplifying the gnawing dread that swarmed over me like a tide of darkness. The distorted figures inched closer, their mouths opening in silent screams, their emotions twisted into grotesque mirth, feeding on my horror. "Oh, you feel their presence?" The woman's voice slithered back into consciousness, wrapping around my mind like a shroud. She stepped from the shadows, her silhouette becoming sharper, more defined amid the chaos. "Each soul is a testament to the price of arrogance. They sought knowledge just as you did, and now they linger in this limbo, forever hunting the light that eludes them. Let them go," I cried, desperation coloring my words. "Help them." But even as I spoke, a gnawing realization suffocated hope. These weren't just lost souls, they were echoes of my doubts and fears, my failures materialized. How could I help them when I couldn't even save myself? An eerie chuckle resonated in the air, vibrating against the unseen walls of this forsaken space. With each laugh, the faces molded into more recognizable forms, me friends, my father, all now marionettes of pain. Their eyes glazed over as if the life had been snuffed from within. Their voices joined the cacophony, Cries for help merging with gentle whispers, weaving a tapestry of chaos that blurred my sanity. Don't you see? They won't leave because they don't want to. Her words dripped with malice, and I could taste the bitter truth in my mouth. They crave your despair, your vertiginous plunge into the darkness. They are bound to you. The clock ticked again, louder now, its resonance manufacturing an oppressive weight that pressed down on my chest, suffocating. I could feel the shadows closing in, composed of the very essence of my fear, each one a reminder of my past mistakes, regrets wrapped in the finest threads of darkness. Join them, join us, the whispers urged, rising to a hungry crescendo, almost in harmony with the mournful tolling that commanded my awareness. I pressed my palms to my ears, desperately trying to drown them out, yet the vibrations seeped through flesh and bone, resonating with an eerie familiarity that pulled at me, woven into the very fabric of my existence. Suddenly, the ground beneath me buckled as if it were a living malignant creature thrashing in fury. I looked down, horrified, as tendrils of shadow reached up from the depths, coiling around my feet, slowly pulling me into the ground's insatiable maw. I fought against it, thrashing wildly, my limbs caught in the damp, clammy grasp of despair from the darkness. The woman advanced, her features sharpening with a horrifying hunger. If you refuse to become one of us, then we shall feast upon your memories instead, feeding off your every cherished moment until nothing is left but a shell, an empty vessel drifting within these shadows. As the ground stretched and rolled, I could sense it, me memories, tender and raw, beginning to flicker like fading stars in a stormy sky, each moment disconnected from the next, spiraling toward the void. I was losing them, these pieces of myself that defined me, and the emptiness felt like a gash in my heart, a direct link to the darkness that sought dominion over my soul. Help! I screamed, the sound echoing against the walls, desperate and broken. Someone, please! At that moment, a figure appeared from the shadows, a solid silhouette, glowing with a warmth I had thought lost to me. It was fleeting but unmistakable. My heart ached with recognition. No, it couldn't be. The familiar presence surged forward, a collision of hope amid despair. Don't give in, it urged passionately. You have the power to resist. But even as hope gripped my heart, I saw the woman step between us, a wicked smile twisting her face. You think love can protect you? Feel the shadow of despair inching closer, feel it take root. With a defiant roar, the shadows clawed at me with an insatiable longing, and in that moment, I was caught between two worlds, one of darkness, where despair promised surrender, and one of light, flickering just beyond my reach. And then I was tugged violently back, uncertain if it was toward freedom or damnation, my reality disintegrating in the powerful clash of forces. I glanced over my shoulder at the figure, pleading to hold on, but the shadows surged forth, and then a deafening crack echoed through the void, unraveled threads snapping like a frayed rope as they bore down upon me. And then, in that impossible moment, I tumbled into an abyss where the cacophony melded into silence, leaving me alone to wonder what would emerge when the darkness finally claimed me. The stillness pulled me in, wrapping around my body like an ancient shroud, cold and comforting yet filled with latent terror. I floated in an expanse beyond comprehension, feeling not the passage of time yet keenly aware of the haunting absence of my own heartbeat. I had descended into a chasm where fear curled around me, absorbing me into its grip. But then came the whispers, familiar but twisted, echoing through the void like an unholy chant. They spoke my name with a familiarity that gripped my soul in icy tendrils. At first they were soft like a gentle caress of wind. Come back, they lured. Stay with us. Every syllable bore weight, tangibly feeling like chains anchoring me to this abyss. You're one of us now, they sang of loss and despair, evoking a sense of belonging that both terrified and captivated me. Shadows began to twist and shimmer beyond the black veil, forming shapes that were unmistakably human yet grotesquely disfigured, each face familiar, yet rendered monstrous by a hunger for something they couldn't grasp. I flailed in the darkness, struggling against the unseen bonds constraining me. I was not ready to surrender to the void, nor could I face the fear that those shadows represented echoes of my loved ones trapped within the sorrow that gnawed at my soul. Yet they beckoned with open arms, inviting me into their eternal dance of lament. The clock chimed again, slicing through the silence like a dagger, its sound resonating with a rhythm almost Olivia beat that thudded against the walls of this maddening space. Each deafening chime echoed deeper into the void, and in response, the shapes around me writhed with anticipation, their ghostly fingers reaching out as though I was the last offering they could consume. "Embrace what is lost," a voice hissed, curdling the air with a sickly sweetness. I turned, desperate to find its origin in the despondent whirl of shadows. From the depths emerged a new figure, eyes dark like wells of sorrow, pulling back a curtain of obscurity, an entity garbed in a cloak of darkness. It stepped forward, its presence spinning the world with dread. "Who are you?" I croaked, voice trembling in the weight of despair. Its smile was wide, stretching beyond what was humanly possible, revealing rows of teeth glistening like the broken glass that had haunted my dreams. "I am the keeper of whispers, the harbinger of memories," it said, the words slithering into my ears like a chilling breeze. "You are tethered to their pain, your sins binding you in unholy matrimony." The wails of my loved ones erupted in a chaotic symphony, rising and falling, begging and pleading. "They need you to join them," the figure insisted, its shadowy fingers brushing against my cheek. I recoiled as a cold shiver cascaded through me, feeling its icy touch like the bite of a winter's night. "They want you to suffer and to remember, let go of your grievances. Become one with the shadows." That I fought against the urge but felt it wrap around my chest like a vice. Images flashed before me, painful memories, moments of love and loss, the grief that had haunted me since I realized their absence. Each memory tested my resolve, blooming like dark flowers in an endless garden of despair. I wanted to scream, to claw my way back to the light, but the darkness sang a lullaby that promised relief from my memories. Just then, the air became thick with a smell of rotten, putrid scent that gnawed at my senses and disoriented my thoughts. I glanced down, horrified, as phantoms surged from the shadows behind me, their forms toxic and decaying, arms outstretched as though they longed for me to embrace them. They intertwined in a grotesque tangle, rising from the abyss like a wave of carnivorous dreams hungry for flesh. "Join us," they hissed, their voices morphing into a singular haunting echo. "Join us and you will never feel pain again. Well, share your memories." I felt myself teetering on the edge of surrender, heart pounding with conflicting desires, fear battling with the intoxicating lure of oblivion. As the apparition of the cloaked figure leaned closer, a searing pain pierced through my chest, igniting the phantom memories into a wildfire of anguish. I was torn between worlds, the warmth of fleeting light fighting against the icy grip of darkness. Then suddenly, the clock struck again with an authority that rattled my core. A fissure in reality tore open beneath me, a horizon of light blinding in its brilliance that echoed the voice of my beloved, they who had come forth like a beacon in my storm. "Wake up! Fight!" The voice pleaded, strong and warm, yet filled with the urgency of despair. With what felt like the last vestiges of strength, I lunged toward the elusive warmth, breaking through the clutches of shadowy figures reaching for me, my feet barely touching the ground. I turned, casting one last glance at the tormenting figures, their faces contorted with rage and insatiable hunger. But then a new sound emerged, a low growl that reverberated through the air, a creature not born of shadows but of something ancient, something hungry. I felt it closing in, its breath heavy and primal, sensing my resolve wavering, and as I shifted toward freedom, a guttural roar erupted, drowning out the echoes of despair. I was confronted not just with the shadows but with the beast that had been drawn by my struggling entity, unfurling from the depths of darkness, fur bristling and eyes piercing like glints of steel, and then it lunged, teeth bared. In that frozen moment, I felt the choice taken from me, the hanger of my fading memories swirling in my mind as the shadows beckoned one last time, promising reunion but reeking of despair. Would I succumb to darkness? Or could I escape? With a final scream hanging on my lips, I leapt toward the light. In the throes of my leap, the world below shifted like sand, the glimmering light seeming to warp and twist. Just before I could touch it, a shadow reached out, grasping my ankle with a grip more solid than any specter should possess. I felt the chill radiate through my body, pulling me down, deeper into the void as the guttural growl echoed menacingly in the air around me. I fell, or maybe I was plummeting toward something worse than the abyss. As reality wavered and my screams were swallowed, the cloaked figure materialized beside me, its laugh a twisted melody echoing through the emptiness. "You think you can escape?" it taunted. "Every flicker of hope becomes your despair. I fed on so many who tried just like you." The screams of the lost melded into a cacophony around me, growing in intensity until I could feel them clawing at my sanity. The writhing shadows twisted and morphed, forming grotesque images of my life, each moment a dagger that cut deeper than flesh. I could see face me mother's haunting smile, twisted with agony, my brother's searching eyes, reflecting the touch of darkness creeping into every corner of my memories, the faces of those I failed to save, tortured by their absence. Each image lashed out, suffocating me under the weight of grief and ire. They knew my sins, each echo driving deeper into me as if my own anguish was their sustenance. I gasped, battling against the suffocating grip of sorrow and hopelessness, yet those shadows thrived on my despair. Suddenly, the stark crack of thunder reverberated through the emptiness, an explosion of sound that momentarily silenced the wailing. A tear formed in this surreal tapestry, shimmering with the electric hues of reality, a promise of escape hidden among the chaos. There, I thought, pushing through the shadows that flailed around me, grasping for the fleeting shimmer. But as I reached for the light, the feral growl roared again, this time, more distinct, primal. The cloaked figure laughed, its voice layered with glee. Foolish spirit, chasing mirages, no light can save you from your own despair. Driven by sheer desperation, I clawed through the visual torment, determined to get close to the crack before it vanished. Yet the shadows writhed as if alive. A specter lunged at might's face, a nightmarish amalgam of those I loved, mouths opening in silent screams of frustration. The darkness began to twist and warp, sickeningly near as the hunched creature surged from the depths. I realized it wasn't just a specter. It embodied every ounce of despair, every loss reshaped into this monster so full of rage, it was impossible to comprehend. Change. It bellowed, the sound akin to nails on a chalkboard, slashing through my mind. The figure lurked at the fringes, feeding off the chaos, watching with gluttonous glee. Embrace the horror for what it is. You are already lost. With a surge of adrenaline, I managed to pull myself closer to the crack, stretching my fingers toward the beacon of hope. I refused to become part of their twisted feast. My heart raced, driven by momentum, each beat a reminder of why I needed to escape. I could almost feel the flicker of warmth, that promise of my loved ones urging me onward. But then the obsidian miasma erupted, and with it, the creature surged forward impossibly fast, with grotesque limbs that seemed to shift out of place as it lunged for me. Its jagged teeth gleamed thirstily, longing for the essence of fear thriving in my bloodstream. As the gnarled fingers clawed through the air just before me, the proximity to the light flickered considerably, and in that moment I realized I would either die by its hand or make the leap, regardless of the risks. I clenched my fists, feeling the shards of sorrow soaring into a spiraling tempest, each tendril wrapping around me yet unwilling to weave their fatal grasp. Let it consume you. The figure shrieked, more vehemently now, the shadows swarming eagerly. Release the burden. Embrace your path to eternal suffering. With every ounce of resolve left in me, I flung myself toward the light, thrusting my way through despair and the heaving shadows that been holding me captive for so long. Just as the creature's claws scraped against my heel, the ethereal barrier shattered, and I was expelled into the blinding radiance. I never hit the ground. Instead, I found myself tumbling through a layer of brilliant light, a restless energy coiling around me like a spirit cocoon. But with every breath I took, I sensed something unsettling, echoes swirling, shadows creeping through the brilliance. I could feel it, my heart racing slower, the weight of dread creeping back heavily into my chest in the form of whispers. And somewhere from the depths of that light, I heard them again, the voices, a plea woven between the walls of consciousness. You haven't escaped. You've merely changed realms. As the garish reality collapsed around me, with shadows clawing at the edges, I screamed as the figure emerged again, triumphant. Its cruel laughter seeped through that radiant veil, twisting like a knife through my soul. Welcome to your new home, it mocked, where despair awaits in even greater darkness. And as that laughter echoed, a torrent of shadows surged toward me, hungry and insatiable. In that harrowing moment, I realized the horrors lay not just in the realm I had escaped, but also the very fabric of reality itself, threadbare and fraying. And then stillness fell, a prelude to terror, because in this new domain, I sensed something far worse lurking beneath, an ancient, insatiable force that thrived on fear, waiting to consume everything I had left. A door creaked open behind me, and shadowy silhouettes stepped forth, twisted and grotesque, stretching toward my shivering form. The keeper had returned, brighter than before, hunger etched onto its pallid features as it spoke the final words. You brought this upon yourself. Decide now, be one with the shadows or taste the true horror of the light. The choice hung in the air like blade, and with no way to escape the encroaching darkness, I stood frozen, heart racing as the shadows converged. I stood at the precipice of two horrors, my heart thrumming violently against the walls of my chest as the shadows loomed closer. Time seemed to warp, stretching each dread-laden second into an eternity. Every part of me screamed to run, to escape from the grasp of those horrors lurking just beyond the veil, yet an invisible weight anchored me to the ground, paralyzing my very will. The shadowy figures slithered forth, their forms shifting and pulsating like living nightmares. Each grotesque silhouette bore features I recognized but struggled to place, distorted reflections of faces that haunted my past, whispering the names of those I had lost. A figure that resembled my mother reached out, her eyes void of warmth, hollow and dark. "You abandoned me," she rasped, her voice a bitter echo that forged chains around my spirit. "No," I retorted, desperation clawing at my throat. "I tried to save you." But her face twisted with malevolence, a smirk gracing her soft, familiar lips that now dripped with malice, taunting my futile attempts at redemption. From the depths of that torment, something else stirred, a deeper shadow entwined within the thrumming darkness. It was an absence, a gnawing void that resonated with an ancient hunger. My every instinct screamed for escape, yet I found myself merely trembling, every heartbeat like a death knell as I faced the grotesque amalgam before me. "The Keeper of Shadows thrives on your regret," a raspy voice hissed from the swirling mass. A figure, more monstrous than the others, stepped forward, clad in a cloak of biting darkness. It extended a hand, elongated fingers tapering into grotesque claws, each movement deliberate and chilling. "We feed on despair, child, and your grief has made you a banquet for us all." I clutched my chest, feeling my pulse quicken as new horrors dawned upon me. I had entered a realm where my sadness would not only haunt me but manifest before my very eyes. A circle of shadows wheeled around me, eager to consume the very essence of my misery. "You think you have changed realms, but this is merely the back of the theater where your life's performance will play on repeat," the Keeper continued. "You will witness your failures, your pain, and the cries of those who mourn you forever. And with each portrayal we grow stronger." As they advanced, the shimmering light that had initially cocooned me began to dim, the last vestiges of warmth evaporating under the crushing weight of despair. I could no longer discern where I ended and the horror began. It pooled together as if merging into a single form, contorting and shifting, a grotesque puppetry of suffering. I felt the primordial fear slither through my veins, igniting a primal instinct that battled against the suffocating darkness. "I am not afraid of you," I screamed, though I felt the lie slither from my tongue. I was terrified of my failures, of the faces I saw twisted in agony, of the truth that had no place in this realm. With each raised claw and mocking face, I became painfully aware that while the shadows thrived on my despair, they also nourished something darker still, a glimmer of truth that rolled back like the layers of a cursed onion. Buried beneath my own grief was a truth I had denied. I could become as maleficent as the shadows if I gave in. And what a powerful terror I could unleash. "Your fear is a feast to us," the Keeper crooned, an arrogant smile creeping across its monstrous face. "But what if you surrendered willingly? The true horror lies in the power you could wield if you embraced the darkness instead of fighting it." A chill coursed through me, not from fear but from temptation. My thoughts spiraled towards the abyss within. What if I could control the shadows? What if I could turn that pain, those memories of sorrow, into a weapon? I studied the Keeper and its seething minions, all waiting for my decision with eager anticipation. It spoke to the darkest corners of my soul where despair brewed into something poisonous yet powerful. "Join us," it urged, voice sultry like honeyed poison, "and see how much more you can become. Together we can reign over this realm." I felt the pull of their offer, the seduction of significant power thrumming beneath layers of sorrowful regret. But then a flicker of memory broke through, the Hazia time of laughter under the sun, the warmth of love that could tether me to the light even among the shadows. As the Keeper etched its ultimatum, something stirred behind me, a sinister presence bubbling up from the depths, as if the very shadows wished to claim me entirely. I could sense a vortex forming, a confluence of malevolence gathering strength, and in that stark moment, I realized that my decision would either consume my humanity or awaken something darker than death. Before I could make the torturous choice, the ground beneath me cracked and yawned open, a void surging forth where shadows converged in a maelstrom more potent than before. With a scream that reverberated in every shadowy essence, I was pulled into the stormy abyss. Here, the shadows clasped and clawed, and as I plummeted into that well of darkness, I felt a surge of power thrumming beneath my skin, begging to be unleashed. The keeper's laughter rang loudly in the chaos, mingling with the whispers of forgotten souls as I tumbled helplessly between the realms of light and shadow. And just before the vortex swallowed me whole, I knew my decision would steer the tide. For I was on the precipice of becoming something far darker than any horror I had ever imagined. Behind me, I sensed the keeper watching, its gleaming eyes filled with an unspeakable hunger. I braced for impact, knowing full well that the moment I embraced either side, the real horror would finally begin. What awaited on the other side was a question I no longer had the answer to, but as the shadows entwined with flesh and bone, I understood nothing was safe, not even the light. The moment I hit the ground, the world shifted. The familiar sensation of gravity evaporated, replaced by a buoyancy that felt as though I were suspended in the shimmering ether between realms. I was no longer in the realm of shadows but floating amidst a swirling mass of light and dark, each strand pulling at my essence, formless and disorienting. Suddenly, I tumbled through a swirling corridor of memories, each scene flickering past like a lost film reel. With every image, the boundary between the me I once was and the fractured being I had become thinned. A glimpse of my childhood flashed before me, mother laughing, her eyes sparkling light, and in that instant, it felt as though we were together once more. But the laughter morphed into a haunting echo as her face twisted and darkened, replaced with the abyss of those I had lost. Each memory a knife slicing through the fabric of who I was. I landed heavily, gasping as the unseen chains of my history clamped down around me, squeezing tighter with every recollection. A cold realization started to seep in. The darkness wasn't just around me. It was woven into every fiber of my being, amplifying the weight of regret I had tried so hard to bury. The shadows swirled in anticipation, whispering secrets not meant for mortal ears, each voice a mirror reflecting my deepest fears. Shaking, I pushed myself to my feet, feeling the ground beneath me pulse like a heartbeat, alive with the essence of those I had lost. My gaze darted around the shadowy expanse, a figure coalescing from the darkness just ahead. It twisted and shifted, the familiar silhouette of my younger self, a time before betrayal and loss had annihilated my innocence. "What are you?" I choked out, feeling the shadows constrict about me, binding me in a cocoon of despair. "I am what you fear to face," the figure replied, voice tinged with bitterness. "I am the culmination of every regret you have ever felt. You think you can ignore us? We are the truth of your existence." The air grew dense with malice, the shadows thickening, taking on weight. I opened my mouth to protest, but the words caught uncomfortably in my throat, a plea for escape morphing into an acknowledgement that rippled across the air like electric tension. From the depths of the darkness, the keeper laughed, a sound like shattered glass drawing my focus. "She embraces you only because she's too weak to fight. Rather than succumb to the reality of your darkness, you choose the easy path, the bleak comfort of feigned innocence." The grotesque laughter echoed against the walls of my being, blending into a chant, each word twisting around me like a noose. The apparition of my younger self cried out, "No, you don't have to surrender to them. We can fight. We can find the light." But even as she spoke, the shadows danced closer, drawn to the fear that radiated off my skin as if it were a beacon luring them in. "Light? What light?" the keeper jeered, stepping fully into view, cloaked in living darkness, eyes gleaming insidiously as they locked onto mine. "You think you can escape this? We are bound together now, you and I. I can show you realms of strength beyond your wildest imagination. Just give in and you will transcend." The thought curled beneath my skin, a seductive lullaby coaxing me toward the brink. A blinding vision enveloped me. I could become something more than human, beyond fear, beyond regret. The power to change my past, to shape what would come, flickered before me like a bolt of lightning poised to strike. But I saw again my mother's face, illuminated in that way only light could command. I remembered her warmth, the comforting embrace that felt like an unbreakable bond, a contrast to the cold void encroaching around me. In that moment of clarity, I fought against the pull. "You do not own me," I cried out, my voice strong as I summoned every shard of courage buried deep within. "I am not my regrets. I am not my losses. I will not give in." The shadows around me writhed, recoiling as I pushed back against their grip. But my defiance ignited a furious response from the keeper, who snarled with rage. "You're but a child playing at heroism. Your light is extinguished. Your shadow consumes you." The ground beneath me erupted, jagged fissures splitting the earth open, allowing the darkness to roar forth. I felt the tempest of shadows spiral tighter around me, struggling against my resolve. Just when I thought I would be dragged back into the bottomless pit of despair, a blinding flash ignited the space around me. A figure emerged from the Carenza woman draped in radiant light. She flickered with the essence of my lost mother, her ethereal form reaching out with arms stretched wide, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. "Child, listen to me." My mother's voice cut through the doom, reverberating with warmth that tugged at the strings of my heart. "You are stronger than you know. You can define your own fate." The shadows wailed, thrumming violently against the light, but I could feel the warmth breaking through, a new power singing through my veins. As I tore my gaze from the keeper, who seethed with rage, I clenched my fists, harnessing the power of my memories, both painful and beautiful. But before I could communicate my vows of defiance, the keeper roared, summoning the shadows into a frenzy, tearing through reality itself. The very fabric of the world began to unravel, and in that moment my heart raced with uncertainty. "Join me or be lost forever," it bellowed, and with its words sending fresh chills across my spine, the ground trembled beneath us as the darkness surged, reaching for my essence, ready to claim me for eternity. And then in a blinding flash everything around me shattered, the shadows screaming, the light collapsing as I faced the decision that would not only redirect my destiny but plunge me deeper into the nightmare of unending horror. With a fierce pulse of energy, the light and darkness collided, and at that instant I knew the choice was mine to make. How far I was willing to go to reclaim my truth hung heavy in the air, unresolved as the chaos closed in, threatening to swallow me whole. I was falling again, a spiraling descent through a kaleidoscope of light and shadow, the remnants of my choice twisting away like smoke in the wind. The chaos around me morphed into a cacophony of whispers, voices melding into a single fragmented memoria chorus of those I had loved and lost. Each ghostly chant clawed at my resolve, their tones oscillating between comfort and despair, tugging at the very essence of my being. "I'm here." I called out into the void, my voice trembling as I grasped at the threads of familiarity that flickered in and out of reach. "I am still here." But with every declaration, the echo morphed into a grim laugh, a sound that reverberated through me, sinking deeper than I thought possible. Suddenly I landed hard, crashing onto a cold, damp surface that sent ripples of panic through my core. Uproarious laughter erupted around me, rich with malevolence. I blinked against the darkness encircling me, my senses screaming that I was not alone. Shadows flickered and morphed, the grotesque faces of the keeper's minions sprouted from the ground like weeds, their hollow eyes fixed on me with unabashed lust for fear. "Welcome back, lost little one." A voice slithered into my ears, wrapping around my thoughts like a constrictor. It was an all too familiar face, one that evoked dread curling around my heart like a noose tightening with every second. It was the visage of my deceased childhood friend, Rebecca, her features twisted in an excited grin that no longer held the warmth of our shared memories. "You wandered off, but you're home now." "Rebecca?" I gasped, struggling to contain the surge of horror rising within me. "This isn't right. You're gone." Her laughter turned sharp, cutting through the murky air like glass. "Gone? Oh, sweetie, I never left. You simply hid from me. We're bonded, you and I, forever connected in the depths of despair." She glided closer, arms outstretched, fingernails elongated and caked with grime. "Join us in everlasting twilight." That I retreated instinctively, the primal urge to escape flooding my veins. "No, I won't be part of this," I screamed, heart racing, clawing for the faintest light that seemed out of reach. But with every word, I felt the shadows devour my resolve, wrapping tightly around me, plunging deeper into an abyss of regret. "Do you think you can resist?" Rebecca purred. Her smile morphed into something more sinister, as if the darkness itself had seeped into her being, reshaping her into a harbinger of fear. "You think you're strong enough to fight this? Every secret you've buried, every guilty pleasure, you can unleash it. Just like I did." A low rumbling voice interjected, thrumming like an ominous heartbeat. "Let her embrace who she truly is," it commanded, and from the depths of shadows emerged the keeper, its form accentuated by the flickering light struggling against it. Let the darkness provide liberation. The darkness swelled, swirling around me in violent eddies, threatening to swallow me once more. Their writhing forms fusing into one another, creating a grotesque spectacle of contorted limbs and faces. The shadows whispered my name, each syllable a plea, simultaneously seductive and revolting. Ah, the weight of your past is heavy, isn't it? The keeper's eyes glinted with cruel amusement, voyeuristic and hungry. Surrender to it. Free yourself from the bonds of remorse. Where are your scars? Embrace your darkest desires. They are merely shadows clawing for nourishment. I gasped, dread mixing with adrenaline as I felt visions pushing against the walls of my mind, scenarios of hurt, revenge, and despair coursing through me like poison. Each image sent shivers spiraling down my spine, taunting me with the alluring yet terrifying power of release. Think of it. Don't you want to unlock that power? Rebecca's voice hissed, almost endearing. I met her gaze, and for a moment, I saw the glimmer of my childhood friend flicker beneath the surface. Then it vanished like a whisper in the wind. "No," I cried. "You are not real. You're a lie." The words tumbled from my lips, yet they felt like grains of sand slipping through my fingers, futile. Shaking my head, I closed my eyes, blocking out their beckoning faces and the tug of anguish that came with their memory. But the shadows pulsed against me with a dark energy that spoke of temptation, of secrecy, of truths I couldn't bear to acknowledge. A sudden wave of clarity washed over me, the chaotic maelstrom fading momentarily as I pondered a chilling realization. What if the darkness offered strength rather than despair? What if the shackles of my regrets were but a conduit to unfathomable power? Join us. The chorus of lost souls surrounded me now, friends, family, and those I had wronged, each call binding me to their accusations, their anger, their unyielding need for recognition. Only in the abyss can you find yourself. I staggered back, breath hitching as I faced the keeper, who stood sentinel, a monstrous grin spreading across its featureless face. Delicious agony and temptation stand before you, child. Imagine what you could do with the shadows closing in, clawing toward my very essence. I realized the precariousness of my choice. And just as I felt the cool brush of darkness seeping into my skin, a singular thought struck me with unrelenting terror. What if the more I fought against it, the more I became a part of it? As I struggled with my resolve, I opened my mouth to call out for my mother, only for a shriek to erupt from the shadows, pulling me into an inescapable grasp, snatching away my breath. And there, at the precipice of understanding and despair, the keeper loomed ever closer, its voice whispering a haunting ultimatum into my ear: surrender before the dawn arrives, or succumb to darkness forever. I stood amidst the tumult of darkness, the weight of my choices pressing down, a suffocating shroud wrapping tighter around me with each echo of despair that surged forth from the shadows. They lurked, whispering promises of power, freedom, and escape from my burdens. But beneath that seductive promise lay a truth far more terrifying, one that cracked against the surface of my sanity. It was Rebecca, her face twisted into something grotesque yet achingly familiar, smirking as her hollow eyes glinted with anticipation. "You can relish it, you know," she said, slinking closer. "This isn't just horror, it's liberation. Why resist what you truly are?" She reached out, shadowy tendrils wrapping around her fingers like snakes eager to grip. "Defy it, and we will haunt you forever. Submit, and you will become the master of your own darkness." As much as I shook and trembled against my instinct to relinquish control, the very essence of despair throbbed painfully within my chest. I felt my spirit fraying, every memory of light dimming and draping me in a mottled cloak of regret. The shadows quivered eagerly, inching closer, swallowing my resolve with every anguished cry that echoed in the abyss. "No," I screamed, ripping my gaze from the taunting specter. "I won't be one of you." But the keeper of shadows was there, eyes burning like pinpricks of darkness. "Do you not see?" it taunted. "You're already one of us. You've shed all that was you. This is the reality you have chosen." The very walls of this nightmarish realm pulsed wildly, shadows seething closer, becoming a thick fog that choked me with certainty. With each heartbeat, I felt the pull and attraction that threatened my very essence. This power, they said, it could be mine if I only surrendered. In a frantic surge of courage, I pulled my thoughts together, forcing my voice to break free from their hold. "I am not my fears, I am not my regrets. I redefine what my memories signify. I am stronger than you. My heart thundered as I braced myself against the tide of despair, drawing memories of warmth and laughter from a time when the world had still cradled me in light. In a flash, something shifted. It was not just the blind acceptance of darkness that I feared, but the very act of allowing despair to shape me. Hadn't I already lived enough of my life in shadows? Now was my chance. Me love for those lost could be the light that led me back, guiding me through this chaos. Yet the shadows hissed and writhed, enraged by my rejection. You think you can resist? You will become part of us eventually, they bellowed, overlapping their voices in a cacophony that scraped against the edges of my sanity. I could feel them trying to grip me, pulling me toward their chaotic euphoria. As I pushed harder against their fog of torment, the darkness began to crack, fissures appearing in the shadows that frayed at the edges of my resolve. I could feel their jealousy. I could almost taste it, an unspeakable fury at the notion that I could escape their grasp. In that twilight, a figure burst forth, incandescent in its brilliance, my Mothera, guardian of light amidst encroaching shadows. Her presence flooded the void, startling the figures of despair hovering close as they recoiled at the sight of her warmth. Fight! Her voice resonated, filled with a love that pierced through the fog. You are not alone. You're never alone, Mom, I called, tears spilling over. The shadows wavered, the keeper screeching in rage, unable to grasp my renewed determination. No, I roared, surging forward, bereft of fear. I am the ebb and flow of memories, both light and dark. I am the keeper of my own fate. In a magnificent surge of will, I extended my hands toward the encroaching shadows, ripping through the smothering fog that clutched at my throat. I felt the power coursing within me, a tempest that would become a spectacular wave of rebellion. In that moment, the shadows shrieked, no longer defending territory but frantically retreating as I embraced the surge of love and loss that intertwined with my essence. The air cried out, and from the very fabric of despair, I wove against the keeper of shadows. You will not take me, I declared, feeling the light of my mother envelop me, guiding every ounce of my being. The darkness exploded, a blinding flash splitting the fabric of my existence as I barreled through, breaking free of their clutches. The keeper howled, a terrifying sound that resonated with my very bones. You'll regret this, child. You've sealed your fate. But as the world reconstructed around me, hattered pieces merging into something new, I stood tall, my spirit unfurling with resilience. I was not naive. I wouldn't forget the shadows from which I had emerged. They lingered like echoes, haunting and persistent, but I had found the strength within the light of those I loved. And somewhere, mingled in fading whispers, I felt their presence comfort me, a knowledge that the darkness would always strive to claim me, but that it could never truly own me as long as I stood firm. As I took that final leap back into the light, a place now tinged with the bittersweet memories of my past, I realized the darkness did not vanish. No, it lingered still, a menacing specter beyond reach, tying itself to the fabric of my realistic, a reminder of the horrors I'd faced. And in that eerie acceptance, a chilling truth unfurled. The shadows may have lost this battle, but the war was far from over. They would return, for they were woven into my existence, surging just beneath the surface. More than ever, I knew that I could never truly escape the horror, I could only endure it. And amidst this profound revelation, a haunting murmur filled my ears, echoing with finality, a whisper that trailed into the night. You may have escaped, but the shadows will never let you go.